Hi, folks. Welcome to Code and Concrete, where we share the latest trends and the stories of trailblazers in the built environment. I'm your host, Matthew Schneider, the CEO at Building Inc. Joining me today, I've got Adam Weyer. He's a dynamic, emerging professional in commercial real estate and public accounting, currently interning at Colliers International and soon PwC in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's a student athlete at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. He's pursuing a CPA license. He's also a licensed realtor and the founder of the UWL Real Estate Club, which he grew to over 120 members, creating impactful opportunities for peers. Adam aims to specialize in real estate taxation and enter real estate development. His diverse experience spans multifamily, property management, CRE accounting, retail banking, HVAC trades, and media production, blending technical, financial, and creative skills. Adam, you've got a lot going on for a college kid. I'm really glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm grateful to have this opportunity and hopefully share a different perspective from students that maybe people don't normally get. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
I think you will. And when I reached out to you and I said, hey, I want a student perspective, I think it's more important now than ever because there's two trends that I've seen happening. One is the emergence of like a CRE, I don't know what you'd call it, degree, study, understudy, but that in juxtaposition with the fact that people are relying less on college to get where they want to go. And especially in commercial real estate, you have a lot of self-starters where they just bootstrapped and kind of took off. So I really want to learn from you throughout today how people can still leverage the education system to succeed in commercial real estate, and then maybe some other areas where they don't need it as much.
Yeah, that's a good topic and good question to explore. I think personally with my background, it was one where I almost fell in love with the school that I was going to and kind of considered the real estate and got into it a little later. I think that a lot of it's based on the individual. You kind of mentioned like the bootstrap mentality. So in a way, it feels like that's kind of what you're taking out of it. I think that there are some great opportunities at bigger schools like here in the Midwest, your Marquettes, your Madisons that have full-blown real estate programs. There are so many opportunities there in just talking with my peers that exist that I see why it's useful to go that route. However, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's a lot harder if you go an untraditional route. But I think in my case, going to UW-La Crosse, kind of trying to bootstrap the real estate club and get that going in the long run is gonna cause me to get more out of it than I would if, say, I went to a real estate program. I was just a member of something instead of playing a pivotal part in creating a program and an interest around real estate at a school that didn't already have a strong real estate presence.
I would agree with that 100%. I would say in the modern age, the benefit of college is not so much the education or the curriculum that it can provide or any sort of certification or degree. That's oversaturated is probably a good way to put it, but also it's not a true demonstration of skill. So what does a university offer? It's connections. And you really embody this with the group that you've put together. It's not just other people who are interested in commercial real estate, but going so far as to join a club in particular for the industry and saying, I want to develop properties. I want to invest in properties. Who else is looking to do that? And how do we do it together? That sort of collaboration, you have this forum to create potentially lifelong partnerships. And I think that's super, super valuable. And I greatly appreciate that you have put this all together. So tell me, what was it like taking this from an idea, hey, let's get a UWL real estate club, and building it into this massive, 120 people, that's a lot of folks, into this massive organization, I think is how you describe it. You run the darn thing, so it's probably a lot of responsibility. What's that journey been like founding this?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think there's a lot of credit I'm getting here. It's not something that's done solo. A lot of things you need other people to help. There's an executive team that kind of helped build it from the ground up. There's Emily, my vice president, Lauren Larkin, Kara, and Grace, who all kind of helped start this club. But for me, when I was coming into college, I was looking at clubs and organizations that I could join to get something out of, develop professionally, and make those connections to try to be around like minded people. And there were a lot of them that seemed interesting, but there was nothing in real estate. And I saw there was a gap, a niche that I could fill. So coming out of high school, I had this idea, and as I'm sure you can relate, a good idea in your mind is very infectious where you can't stop thinking about it no matter what you do. You have this desire and you have to do it. So on my end, I took the first semester to get used to college. Could have been procrastinating. There's no reason not to. I think that's more so an excuse. But then I got into the going through the university, filing all the paperwork that you need, and just trying to get the word out to try to find some like-minded people to bring this together, I think is the biggest thing. And one thing I was thinking of when I was trying to found the club, and that led me to do it, is if I want to lead a business in the future, start a business in the future, how am I going to be able to do that if I can't even start a club with much smaller stakes than a business or something like that in the future? So yeah, just did that, found the right group of people, got the word out, and slowly we had more and more people saying that they were interested. We had a consistent group of people that would start to show up to events. And we really don't limit what our club does. We try to explore everything from residential, commercial. We'll bring in people from residential realtors to commercial developments and like founders of firms. So it's a wide variety, but that's what the club is for.
Well, that's interesting logic. How can I start a business if I can't start a club? I feel like the club could be a little bit more difficult because you have to get college kids to commit and show up and be interested. So that being said, what do you think is attracting people, young people in particular, to the commercial real estate or real estate industry at large? But it sounds like it's a lot of commercial real estate. What's that interest?
Yeah, so it seems like there's a lot of people that have a general interest in your accounting, your finance, just understanding like personal finance. And I feel like the next logical step for a lot of people is looking into real estate. That's how I personally got into it. So I think they have that passion. They want to learn more. They're curious. So I think that's how we can draw in a lot of people. And then it's new, it's exciting, at least like at our stage, when you're the new club on the block. If you can kind of get the word out there, I feel like you can use that to your advantage. So yeah, I think that's one thing that we kind of leveraged as much as we could. And then we tried to cater to the people as much as possible. We'd send out a bunch of surveys. We'd ask, hey, what do you want to learn about? Would you like us to connect with maybe a small development or someone who owns some multifamily properties down the street? Or would you like to try to have us get in contact with someone who does private equity in real estate at a larger scale level?
Well, when people fill out those forms, what are they indicating is most interesting? Like what were some of your grandest guests, biggest turnouts? People were packing because they absolutely wanted to learn this about real estate.
I think a lot of people are interested in the investment side. They want to personally do it. Obviously, starting off at a small scale, because for a lot of people, you're a college student. Maybe you're coming out of school and you have loans, or you just weren't handed a silver spoon that you have all this money to put into it, but you got to start somewhere. And in terms of the biggest speakers we've had a lot of people, but the people with the best turnout and the biggest support, one person, Joff Pedretti, who's a big realtor and investor in the Madison area, he's been very helpful in terms of supporting our organization that's making an impactful difference. And when we get a speaker who's experienced to talk about, say, a house hacking, something even as small as that, of how someone can get started in real estate, we've drawn some pretty big crowds relative to our small size at the university. So that's something that's been big. We also had Jason Luther, who founded the Luther Group in Elm Grove, which does a lot of commercial real estate. He's a UWL alumni and was willing to come back and speak. So we're really grateful to have like two alumni that it almost feels very relatable for me, where they didn't go for real estate, but now they're involved in the industry and they're some of the top people in their market too, which is, it shows that like it doesn't matter where you're from, you can still be great at whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I could definitely see how kids attending this see themselves in the speakers. Here's people who 5, 10, 15 years ago were the same age. They had an idea. They set out. They built a business. They started investing in real estate, and they became successful. So why not me? That's what's going through the heads of all these folks. I want to learn the secrets. What were the tactics? What's the alpha? You know, is there a step-by-step process to me going out? And first thing that comes to mind is the Burr method, right? To essentially fix and flip properties. And a lot of people follow a model like that. And then maybe it gets oversaturated and then there's a new tactic. So there's always ways for people to pick up on something, gain an edge in the market, make money that way, and probably become a future speaker, right? You become successful, the years go by, and then you can contribute that knowledge back to the next generation. I want to ask about the club portion. So for anyone out there who says, I want to start a club for something, like a blockchain club or a real estate club, how should they go about doing that?
Biggest thing I'd say is do it. Don't care what anyone else thinks. Don't get overwhelmed by what it might take to do it. In my experience, yes, it may take up a lot of time, but seeing what comes out of it is very rewarding. In terms of like at a university level, a lot of them have step-by-step processes laid out on their website for how to start going through something like this. And once you get in touch with someone from the university, a lot of times they have big support staff to help facilitate like student and community events. So they're very willing to help. So that's one thing that I found. But I think the biggest thing is just taking that first step and committing to it, doing whatever step is needed, whether that's filing paperwork, telling your friends, saying, hey, I'm going to do this. And now hopefully they'll hold you accountable so you can actually make that dream or idea a reality.
Yeah. I encourage people to pick up on some of the trends that are happening, especially around technology, something I'm passionate about. There's a surprising number of people who are probably curious about this, and for someone to step into the leadership role and say, hey, sounds ambitious, sounds challenging, but I'm going to do it. I think that inspires a lot of confidence in others and can really start to put together these movements, right? It's not just an organization of people, but it's a movement. It's a pursuit of something. Hey, there's other people in real estate. It's time for me to get into that. It's life-changing stuff. I think that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about you. So heading into public accounting is not renowned for being one of the most fun things. So I'm curious, what excites you about accounting and tax knowledge, and how do you think that's going to give you a competitive edge in real estate?
So the biggest thing that's interested me and drawn me into the field of accounting is I think the benefits that working in the field of accounting can provide. My hope is that with me going into accounting, I can gain a whole new hard skill set that I can use to help in my own personal and career ambitions. If you're not familiar with the field of accounting right now, obviously I feel like you've heard that there's a lot of older people retiring, and who's going to fill those jobs? And accounting typically has a stereotype where it's maybe a bunch of nerds with glasses who can't talk that well or aren't very social. And while I'm sure there are some cases where that may be true, from my perspective, it's vastly different. So that's something where I've found some great people who are very ambitious, and it may just be the companies that I'm working at or talking to, but it's great to see. But there's a lot of incentives. Obviously, they work you hard in public accounting. The rumor is, or not the rumor, the expectation is that during busy season, it's like you work a lot of hours. It might not be fun. But with that, there's a lot of pay and benefits that go into it. Personally, I'd like to use this to understand real estate taxation and use it to my own advantage. If you think about it, understanding real estate, and forgive me for how I may put this, but I view it as like legal tax evasion in a way. Like if you can understand the techniques to reduce your tax liability and be able to use that for other projects in the future, that's a huge advantage. So that's something where I'm hoping to use my accounting background to strengthen what I'm looking to do in the real estate field in the future.
It's a really good point, that last one, understanding the tax incentives and depreciation, valuations of assets, and how all of these intertwine. A lot of people think I don't have to worry about the spreadsheets or the books, but that's how some of these deals, like you can find a diamond in the rough by recognizing something about this asset was not utilized, it wasn't taken advantage of. And if I do that, this can become profitable. And especially doing that at scale when you're dealing with multiple assets and a variety of assets, because there could be businesses as well that you're working with, and just intertwining all of that, writing stuff off appropriately saves a lot of money. And it's not just money into your pocket, but it could be back into the property, and it has this compounding effect long term. So I appreciate that. And for someone who is interested in the appraisal process and valuation services, how data gets fed into that, inputted into those models, I can't understate the importance of that. I mean, real briefly, that's something that building does. We're focusing on how to treat data as an asset, because data, numbers, spreadsheets, how we value properties, and ultimately that becomes, what's our risk? What's our return? How do we trade this? Is it going to be used as collateral? What does it look like at refinancing? But it all starts at, well, what are the numbers going in? What are the variables? What are the constants? And just understanding that. It's gotten much easier nowadays with all the software out there. Speaking to the people who are retiring in this day and age, it might not be too worrisome that there is a great retiring in accounting, because it's one of those fields that's quite automated at this point. Because at the end of the day, accounting is math, and math can be performed by computers. That's just my 2 cents. But I want to pick up on your work in property management, HVAC, and banking. So how do you feel like these practical jobs, and you can blend accounting into that as well because you hinted at it, but how do you feel like these practical jobs shape how you're thinking about developments or ownership of real estate?
Yeah, so first I wanted to touch on what you said. I think, there is a lot of technology that will definitely help automate processes in accounting. And I think if that happens, that would be great, because there's some tasks like, say, manual data entry or things like that I hope nobody has to do. And I think as a society, we'd be a lot better if those were eliminated. But I think at the highest level of accounting, it's dealing with a lot of things that are changing and more moving into a problem solving, almost like consulting, working with customers role at the top end, which hopefully by eliminating some of the more time consuming tasks, it'll allow people to focus on some of the bigger ideas. So that's kind of what I've seen from my perspective. But on to the other background of retail banking, HVAC, accounting, and those sorts of things. I think they all kind of intertwine with real estate in some way. And it's something where growing up and entering the workforce and doing all that, maybe I didn't fully realize the connections that it would have, but it's something now looking back at it, I'm very grateful. Obviously, any property, there's physical assets that you need to maintain. There's capital expenditures, obviously your HVAC, your electrical, your plumbing, all that stuff. And if you're in a position where you can understand that better than most people, say you understand the costs associated with it, why something may or may not seem right, if you understand how they function and things like that, it's an advantage over someone that, say, has never worked in the trades or in the HVAC industry or whatever industry specifically, that you can kind of leverage to your advantage. And especially if you're looking to get into real estate at a smaller scale, if you have those skills and you can perform some of those, say something goes out and you need to replace an air conditioner or something like that, it's something that it could save you a lot of money. And over time, things like that add up. And then in terms of the retail banking, working there, although there's a lot of stuff and time spent on the teller line where you're just interacting with people, there's a lot of value that comes out of it. You get to understand what people are like. You get to talk with a lot of business owners. You get to talk with people who work in real estate, and you get full access to all of their financials. And it's your job to keep it secure and do a good job with that and provide great customer service when you're there. But it allows you to see what's going on in different industries. And for me, that helped me determine what industries I thought I should steer into or try to stay away from. And additionally, I had the opportunity to shadow and work with our SBA lending, our commercial credit, to understand how deals get done from the side of the bank. And understanding that knowledge is very valuable when you can have all your documents prepared, go to a bank, and it's in a format that they want. It makes life a lot easier for everyone involved.
Well, in many ways, you're describing building, which is all about becoming finance ready for real estate assets. What does it mean to be finance ready? What are the institutions looking for? Building off of what it takes to succeed in real estate, I think for the longest time why people didn't have to pursue degrees is because it was this strange combination of hard skills and soft skills. To construct an asset or property, to maintain it, those are trade skills. And you wouldn't be going to a traditional college or university for that. And then also deal making, negotiating, those are all soft skills. It's working with people. It's understanding how to be charismatic, perhaps, how to go to a networking event, take people out to dinner. And these are things that you simply can't do by the book. You learn it by throwing yourself into the weeds, mirroring someone, and just developing that real, genuine wisdom from experience. So I think that's the approach that you have, which is let me accumulate a versatile skill set, diverse skill set. That's probably the right approach. It's very entrepreneurial to say, let me be a jack of all trades and utilize that wherever is going to make me the most money. And one of those industries happens to be real estate. And that's what it commands from people. Like you have to know so much about so many different things, whether it is taxes or the construction and supply chain. Where are my materials coming from? How do we operate this? What are the city ordinances? Like there's just so much to think about. Now, one of the things that we were talking about before the show was mass timber. I just want to get your thoughts on this real quickly, your 2 cents. Have you seen any conversations around this in the real estate club or sustainability in general? Like, are these concerns for kids or not?
I think being at the college level, there's, and especially at universities, sustainability is a big thing that's talked about. Personally, our club hasn't dove into this much at all, to be honest. But I think if there's a way where you can try to make, and say in a perfect world, you could make the cost perfectly even and one's more sustainable, obviously people are gonna choose that. It's in actuality, are those things the same? No. So that's something that I just think is interesting. I live in Milwaukee where there's a lot of mass timber projects going up. There's the Ascent that Newland Enterprises finished, which is very cool to see. I get to run past it almost every day after work. I love the idea of it. I think going for more sustainability and seeing things like that is great. And I'd love to see it in the future if it's feasible and sustainable in terms of a model of construction and building and still getting all the necessary things needed to complete a real estate deal. So it's something that I'm kind of hoping the future of it is good and that it can be something that's implemented, because I just think it would be great just for the sustainability, for the new technology that goes into it. It's just something new and exciting. And I think that gets people behind a lot of things.
It's a very interesting subdivision of real estate. It almost has its own cult following, which is interesting. People get very passionate about mass timber and they want it built. It's a little more popular in Europe, but part of that is because that's where the timber is. It's where the lumber is. And in our case in the US, it's difficult to pen out the deals because we have to import a lot of that. And so it raises questions even about the sustainability of the supply chain process. Like, yeah, we took carbon emissions out of the construction process and we added it back in with all this transportation. So there's definitely some debate around the effectiveness of this, but I would say that oftentimes it has a very cool aesthetic. And I think ultimately what it represents is an alternative way, an innovative way of approaching real estate. And this is something that I'm always promoting, particularly on technology, whether that's software, hardware, or even down to chemistry, which is kind of what, steel, concrete, timber cakes down to. Like, what's the chemical makeup of this and how do we make it neutral? But I just like to see innovation, progress, maybe if you want to use that word, in this industry, because we know that it has lagged behind for not just decades, but maybe even a century, like in terms of productivity and the amount of technology that's adopted just to make things better. It's often overlooked. It's so profits driven. And so I really like to see people who say, hey, let's do things right. Let's build this right. Let's design it, engineer it. Let's think about how to build smarter cities, better places for people to live, work, and play. Now, you mentioned something about running, and I took it literally because I know that you've competed in track and field, but it's actually a very common theme amongst entrepreneurs that I interview, that they were a student athlete at some point and they're still heavily involved in athletics, always active people. I think a lot of it ties down to discipline. So how do you feel that being a student athlete and competition in general has shaped your entrepreneurial journey so far?
I think it plays a very unique role I think it's interesting that you made that observation and see that. For me, I think a lot of sports just require determination to keep showing up day in after day out, whether that's from being really passionate about it or wanting to get something out of it, being the best at something, whatever reason that forms that discipline to stick to something. And then in my case, it's like the people I'm surrounded by and the cross country and track and field team at UW Lacrosse are insane. I've been running for 6 years and I feel like I'm just getting into it when compared to how good these people are, where I feel. Our team is pretty good that during my short 2 years there, we won 5 national championships as a team between cross country and track and field. And there's still a lot more to go. But I think that athletics, that discipline is the biggest thing, and that it easily, at least for me, it feels like it easily translates. Wanting to be competitive, wanting to be the best at what you can do, being willing to put in the work, even when you don't want to, because I feel like that's what really sets people apart in athletics and also in the business world. And I'm very young. There's still a lot in both worlds that I'm still looking to learn, but you gotta start somewhere. So
That is the harsh reality about entrepreneurship and sports. They're both very grueling. So teaching not only the discipline, but the perseverance, super important. And especially for long distance running. Like I don't do long distance running. I'll go out for a jog, but nothing too far because it really sucks. But comparatively, I mean, I'm already running a marathon with a startup company. I don't have to go out and actually do marathons. All right, I've got enough on my plate. But it's totally very similar. You got to pace yourself. You want to prevent burnouts.
mm-hmm.
And I think that there's actually probably a correlation between the type of activity that people enjoy and their personalities in business. You do see this. The first thing that comes to mind is football players. It's all about aggression, brute force, and you get some of those guys in sales, and let's make a deal happen, Godfather style. It's going to be your signature, your brains on the paper. And then you have people who are just in it for the long haul. You know, I'm in my mind. I have solitude in the business that I'm running, and I enjoy the piece of it, doing my own thing, being out there, and just keep on going and going and going. So I think that's interesting. Now, as we wrap up here, I want to offer you an opportunity to give words of wisdom and a little call to action for folks out there, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, college age, we'll say, kind of trying to figure out, what's my future going to be composed of? I'm interested in real estate. What do you have to say to them? Should they go the real estate routes? And if yes, do you have one piece of advice that you'd offer?
Yeah, so I think for anyone in that situation, there's a lot of ways that you can go. I think my biggest piece of advice for someone that's in a similar stage of life as me is just to get out there and explore things. Whether that's property management, whether that's working in anything real estate related, just get out there. Don't be afraid to make some cold calls or cold outreaches to people, because a lot of people are very willing to help. I know personally I've received a lot of help from other people. There's no way I would be where I am today without that. So I think a lot of people try to pay it forward. There's still a lot that I'm obviously learning too. So it's not like I'm the greatest source of knowledge ever. But yeah, I think just taking calculated risks is huge. I know I'd like to say I'm pretty risk adverse. But once you start to understand more about what you're diving into, it takes some of that risk away. So for me, whether it's starting the club, whether it's investing, or in the future getting into a real estate deal, having all this background knowledge will help. And then one other thing I wanted to mention is if there's anyone listening and is interested in helping out the UWL Real Estate Club, we would love the opportunity to have speakers, or even if people were willing to support financially. This will allow some of our students who don't traditionally have the same resources as Notre Dame, a Marquette, a Madison, that have full-blown programs. It'll help level the playing field. So if you're interested in supporting that, feel free to reach out to me.
Well, I will 100% have all of your contact information in the show notes, or starting with LinkedIn, and then maybe people can grab your email, because I definitely want to see some folks, especially in Wisconsin. I know that we've got a little bit of an audience there. I want to see people going out to universities, teaching their tactics for getting ahead in real estate. As you said, like, take action. I always say fortune favors the bold, and I think that's extremely correct. And you're going to have to be bold when you do something like real estate. Fundraising is a phenomenal example. It's very difficult to ask people for money. Just because you have a good idea doesn't mean anything. And the sheer amount of rejection, the objections can be awkward. Like, hey, can you give me your money? Like, I'm going to handle and be responsible for your money. So you have to get over that and understand the responsibility that's been placed on you. There's all sorts of examples. Real estate is full of liabilities, that's for sure. So just being bold, being courageous, the sentiment, the hive mind that might exist at a university level, I think you grow out of it really quickly, especially when you see, oh, hey, if I want to be successful, I'm going to have to do something different. So immediately, if you can think that way and then act on it, that separates you from the pack, I would say. You wouldn't be doing something extraordinary if it wasn't above and beyond extraordinary. So I think that's really good advice. I want to see people reach out, inspire students, especially like you said, not every university has the same opportunity. Not everyone's got a silver spoon in their hand. And that's where still being able to form connections, obtain education, super, super important. It's not an old money situation here where, hey, so-and-so has a real estate portfolio that he or she's inheriting from their parents. Like, these are kids, I should say young adults, peers my age, that are bootstrapping and just getting it done. So I love that. What is the best way for people to reach out to you? Is there a contact form for the real estate club?
I'd say the best way is just to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Adam Weyer on LinkedIn is probably the biggest thing. And then I think that just reach out, send a message, and I'll get back to you. I'm usually pretty active on there, so like to keep up with what's going on, and LinkedIn's a good spot to do that, especially when you are connected with some good people.
Well said. I mean, that's worth its own segment. I think every person who wants to build a career or build something in general, like a company or a building, should be on LinkedIn. Phenomenal place for networking, personal branding. There's a lot of cheesy stuff. Like, you don't have to be like how my divorce taught me about B2B sales. Don't have to go that far. But just understanding, hey, so-and-so is studying this. They're working for this company. That's a connection I can leverage. I'm going to reach out. We're going to have a call. We're going to get coffee. And next thing you know, you're business partner. So really great point. Just had to slip that in there. Well, Adam, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insight about what it's been like forming the real estate club, organizing all those people, your journey in real estate, what you're looking forward to, action items for people who want to build up their own real estate portfolio and become a mogul. And then, of course, for everyone who has listened to past and this episode of Code and Concrete, really appreciate your support. If you could give us 5 stars on any platform that you're listening to on, Spotify, Apple, and a thumbs up and a subscribe on YouTube, really helps guests like Adam and all the great folks that we have in the future. Other than that, Adam, really appreciate it and looking forward to reconnecting in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity. thank you guys for taking part of your day to listen to me, a 20-year-old, give my perspective, and I hope you guys found it valuable.
Hey, this is the next generation. All right. Well, best of luck and take care.